Why is this doing this? Okay, there's a bit of sound there from. Thank you, Joe, for letting us know, by the way. You can hear me now, but I don't have my headphones in. Let me try and put my headphones in and go from there. So, yeah. So, oh, no, okay. Okay, so the headphones are working now, I think. Yeah, okay, sweet. We're back. Okay, well, 3 minutes. That wasn't too bad. 3 minutes to make a mistake. Um, let's go back to the original view there so you can see the screen a little bit more. Let's go ahead and get rid of that as well down there. So, what was I saying? Let's just start from the beginning. Yeah, good job. Joe mentions that there. Pop up on the screen there to show. I cannot hear. Thanks, Joe. Anyway, okay, now I'm really confused. We start off today with a bit of a drop, which has caused the first hour of trading to be quite dramatic. So you can see really big box created in the first hour, which means these levels have been populated quite large, whereas different days would be a bit tighter. But that doesn't really mean too much. But we said we were going to talk about the indicators today. We're going to have a look at a few indicators. Then I started toggling the previous day's range, which you can see on the screen there, keeps popping up there. It's previous day's high, the previous day's low would be obviously down below. Then I mentioned the fact that the free moving averages kind of come in and around, but I don't really use them unless I get into a trade, just as a little bit extra support, especially the 50, of course, the 200. You can see the 200 there actually acting as a bit of resistance there. And of course, we have the market sessions, which you don't really need because I personally use, because it's the same thing, I just use the SPY chart. So I can switch this up here on the top left from US 500 to SPY. But I mean, some people obviously trade futures, and of course, you will probably need market sessions. And all of these can be found on TradingView when you sign up for Edgefor, which of course you can do it in the link down below in the YouTube video. And there's a link on my profile as well if you are on X. And of course, you get all of these indicators free. These are my favorited ones, which you can see the favorites. Drop down here to invite only, and there's loads more that you can play around with. I've only favorited these because it suits my trading style. Of course, the time of day helps as well because I'm trading in the last hour because I'm still based in the UK. So yeah, I was also mentioning the fact that I've got different presets. So Edgefor Night here on the top right hand corner. I drop that down. I've also got the normal swing one, which is my kind of separate thing. I'm a general trading, shall we say. And then Edgefor Day, Edgefor Swing as well. Edgefor Swing I haven't quite optimized yet. I'm trying to get that one up to scratch because obviously the Edgefor platforms more typically aimed towards day traders or slight swing traders, depending on obviously what reports you're looking at. So we're going to start with Edgefor Night because that's obviously where we are. And we're going to basically look at how I set up my charts. So let's go through indicator by indicator. First of all, we've got a plain chart, plain price action here. We obviously want to see what the market session is. This is New York, opens here, and we're about to close in about 20 minutes time. But actually, I will leave that up. Why not? Might as well leave it up. You can actually edit these, of course, here as well. So if you want to trade, I don't know, like the German stock exchange or something, or even a different type of Asian stock market, you can just change these times and then change the name of it, and it'll kind of just change with it. So for example, if New York opened actually hypothetically at 8:30, and then obviously it would just move that slightly to the left, but we don't want that because it doesn't open at 8:30. You could, on some days, I don't know how the report would work with that, but you could do 8:30 from when the CPIs and the PPIs come out. But that's not. Oh, here we go. Can select it. But yeah, you can do, and you can obviously toggle different time zones as well. excuse me. So then all four of them will come on there, so you can see how they overlap and see how they kind of become more volatile when they're overlapped potentially. But for now, we're just going to keep on with the New York session because that's where I trade, and I traded in the last hour. Next thing I want to do is add initial balance breakout, which can be found obviously in the invite only, and obviously it's all done by alphabetical order. Initial balance breakout, is it called that, or is it IB? Yes, so that there. I can't select it because it's already on. Oh no, it is there. Well, I'm not going to select it because it's already here anyway. So I'm just going to put that obviously on unhide. And what this does is this first hour of trading, it creates a box. I am just going to get rid of the marker sessions. It creates this box. This is a different box every day because obviously every day is different in the first hour. And then what it does is it creates those levels within the box. So you've got the middle range, a bit like a Fibonacci retracement in a way, but for a specific day. And then you've got the 25% line and the 75% line, or however you want to call it. You can say first quarter, third quarter. I just do 25, 50, 75 in my head. And then you have the levels generated above and below with these green and red lines. And all that is very simply, if I was to draw a square alongside the first hour of trading, and then I was to drag that square upwards, that would be obviously one full movement of the first hour up to this green line. So this is typically known as the 0.5 line, the 1 line, 1.5 line. And obviously today we haven't had that price action to kind of move towards those extra lines, but that's because the first hour was so large in a range. So if we go back to yesterday, in fact, it's the same down. Yesterday's opening candles a little bit tighter, but we still didn't actually break out of the initial balance. So we'll go back another day to see if we can get a good example. Here we go. So initial balance here, set in the first hour, and eventually it did kind of break out of that zone and move up towards these lines. Sometimes you get it quite often, like quite crazily within one day, quite volatile days. Like for example, tomorrow, which is FOMC meeting day, and we'll get obviously the rate decision, that will be all over the place with these lines. I might trade it, but I'm obviously in transit to a different country, so I probably won't. But I will try and have a look and see what opportunities can kind of come across. And if anything does come across, obviously do follow me on X to see how that goes, because I'll post winning trades and losing trades as well. I have posted as much, transparency stuff, shall we say, as possible on X, especially with the Edgeful platform, because it is useful, but it doesn't always work, of course, and that's obviously what I've stressed in the past. The data isn't everything, but it does definitely help. Let's go back to today. So reset chart view. So we've talked about the initial balance breakout indicator, which is really, really handy for my strategy. And my strategy is obviously based around the power hour, which you can see here, power hour breakout. Open that, and of course we have a couple more lines. The two lines are very simply, or three lines. There's one hiding behind this white line here. That's the high of day, which is obviously set in the first 5 minutes on the first candle, because we've had nothing but downside. And obviously the second line is the low of day, which was set just before lunchtime in the US. And of course, this vertical line is the start of power hour. We are now in the last 15 minutes. So we're obviously heading into the close. But what we're looking for is, if we go back to the initial, the Edgeful platform, what we want to do is use our bookmarks and our watch list on the right side. It's really nice and easy. You can just add them as well as you go. So power hour breakout, and then SPY. And we can see today it's hard because it's not quite near the actual low of the day. I mean, it is kind of, but not quite. And also it's a bit too late really to kind of start trading into this. But what I would like to have seen is maybe a retracement back down to this sort of level here, which is the initial balanced line. Not quite the low of day, so we don't really want to hit that low of day because that's not the data. But an entry here would have been nice to kind of come back up to recent highs. So that would have been a nice trade had it come down a little bit lower. And then your stop loss would obviously be below the low of day, because that's where the data lies. And that data is the 18.25% likelihood of it making another low of day. So not very much, not very likely. Essentially 1 in 5 days. But what you can do is actually change this here on the left side. This is generic data in the last 6 months for this report. And then we can do by weekday. And then some weekdays will be more profitable than others. So this one goes up a bit, it goes up 1% for a new low. So not too much difference there. But for example, on a Wednesday, because of FOMC days in the last 6 months, there's going to be quite a few of them. The data really does skew. And then sometimes you get, a much higher percentage of a new low being made, because obviously Jerome Powell has said words and the market has been a bit more volatile in that section. So you probably see it around 30-40%. And obviously we're not going to trade that because it's not in our favor. And essentially we're going to try and trade where the probabilities lie. So looking at this on the screen, you can see Tuesdays, which is obviously today, 19.23% likely it's going to make another low of day. So not very likely, should we say. So we can use this data alongside other indicators. So you can use volume indicators, you can use volume profile, you can just use simple trend line resistance as well. So you've got that kind of flowing through the middle there. You can probably bring it up a little bit higher to just meet the candles. So actually, if I had had this set up a little bit earlier, been a bit more prepared, then I may have actually seen that as a potential a buy-in with a stop loss there and a target profit there. But then you wouldn't have a really good risk to reward ratio. I like to try and find at least 1.6 to 2 because these are kind of scalps, these are in the last hour. So you're looking for kind of very short-term trades from this particular point. Yeah, so that's the power hour breakout report. What I also wanted to do is go to the edge for day. So we've talked about edge for night. So we've gone through all of the indicators here on the left side. We're going to jump into edge for day, which is more towards the beginning part of the day, which might be a bit more up your alley if you're trading like that. I don't know why I said to Tesla. That's another good thing about this, is you don't have to do it on SPY or QQQ or anything like that. You can do it on any sort of stock. Because if you go to Safari here, you can see, why not? Let's do it on Tesla. We're here. We'll do edge for day on Tesla. So we've got power up, no, power breakup, I don't want that. Gap fill. I need to actually see what Tesla did today. Did it gap up? It did. Let's zoom out slightly so we can get a bit more of a clearer view. Get rid of that line because that's a separate chart. Also get rid of that as well. Is that an old position? It is. Get rid of that. So you can see that Tesla did actually gap up today. That's what this blue shading is. That's the gap being represented from yesterday's price action. Obviously, we closed here at 410.26 and we gapped up to 414.43 to be precise. And what we can do, something in my throat. We can go to gap fill and then Tesla, which is what we've done. I think, yes. And you can see the gap has not been filled. It tells you that very nicely there. The gap size is 1%. And of course, the target is 410.23, which is yesterday's close, which makes a lot of sense. So what do we do with this data? Very simple. I don't really trade gap fill too much, but what you essentially do is you see the gap size, which is of 1%. The fill percentage of that being filled 100%, so to fill it, is actually 55% filled. So we're actually in the 45% bracket here. I think I'm losing you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the trading view and we're going to go through the indicators a bit more, as we've mentioned. So the gap for one, it's there to be seen how big the gap is and how much you can kind of fill it. Another good way of doing that is, for example, this gap fill is obviously very large. You can actually set it to fill 50% of the gap. So come down to this sort of area rather than all the way down here. And you can see that reflected in here. So you can change this to, where is it? Is it this one? That's this one. So you can fill percentage of 50%, and then what you'll see is the percentages go up even more. Yeah. So instead of 54, it's gone up to 68. So you can play with the data just like that. I feel like I've been talking for about 20 minutes straight, because I probably have. We've got initial balance breakout again here. It looks slightly different, but it's the same thing. You've got the first hour of trading and the line set for you. That's always handy to have. I really like that because it's basically for the day itself. It's different every single day. So you can see this is the last 3 days of Tesla, as you can see. All the lines are different spacings, different values, should we say. So you've got a different set of statistics every day. And that's what makes Edgeforce so unique, is that you can trade with different probabilities per day rather than just a generic kind of what happened in the last month. Did it go up 5%? Did it go down 5%? How often does it do that? You know, that kind of stuff. This is more day by day probabilities and data that essentially they give you. What was that? Yeah, so I was looking at different indicators. Let's go up to the top left again. We're going to take that one away. And we're going to go to ICT opening retracement, which has not appeared. Okay, right. That's where the opening market. Okay. Get rid of that. Opening candle continuation. This one's very simple. It's essentially where, so we opened the market here and whether it can kind of get back to the top there or not. So where it ends, I believe. Yeah, so you can see how often I don't use this. Breaking out to the upside, downside. Opening range breakouts are a very popular one for the first hours and using the volume. This is the first 15 minutes box. So you see, get rid of that for now. You see with the initial balance breakout, that's the first hour. This one's the first 15 minutes. So you can come down into a 3-minute time frame or 2-minute time frame. And then look for a breakout and a continuous breakout throughout the rest of the day. You can see why I don't use this much, because I'm a bit more of a nighttime trader, shall we say. So we go back to edge from night. I'm going to talk through a trade that I had on Friday, which was successful. But look, so my theory there was actually quite almost right to the point. So we had an entry here, and we come back up to the middle line there for profit. Haven't quite reached there, so that wouldn't have worked completely. But yeah, that's the theory. That's quite there. So where was Friday? Let's go back to Friday. We're on Tuesday now. So on Tuesday, Monday, Friday. Zoom in. Where's everything gone? There it is. What's happened? What? Okay, that's today. It's gone back for a sudden. There we go. So Friday, I had a trade to the downside because the data, I forget what the data said now. I did have it on my X somewhere. See if I can find it. Hang on. I won't bore you with searching through my feed. You can have a look at the chart there while I look at this. Although I did screenshot it, I think. But in fact, I did actually try and get some music going, but StreamYard wouldn't let me upload it because the file was too big. All right. Okay, here's the example. So we can see that the data that we had was a new high of day being made was 20% likely, essentially 20%. So not very likely. So the trade was entered just after this doji candle that you can see on the screen here, hopefully. Where's my, yeah, there we go. This doji candle here on the screen here, that's where I entered the trade. And of course, it was very nice because it kind of came down straight away. The reason I entered there was because of the doji, and because we just entered power hour, and because it was the end of the week. It was Friday, it had been going up pretty much all week. So I thought, okay, I'll take a little position here. It wasn't huge, it was just a small one. And luckily it kind of played out. And you can see, I don't know if I still have it on here. No, my position was very simply from that entry point there down to this middle line. Or was it this first line? No, I think it was the middle line. Yeah, the middle line. With the stop loss, of course, just above the high of day. And that's essentially my strategy in a nutshell. Aim for somewhere down here. It doesn't have to be anywhere as perfect, because I like to try and take it into the close if possible. Because obviously we're only trading within an hour here, sometimes even less than that, 45 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. So just bear that in mind. You might just hold it until the close, but make sure you do close the position before the closing bell, of course, because that's where the data lies with the Edgepool platform. So on top of that, I must have added the trend line that I had drawn here, somewhere around this sort of area. I think it was touching the most recent low. And of course, once that broke, that gave me even more license to feel good about the trade. Obviously 10 minutes later, we're starting to make our way down, and obviously it really did plummet down. Took profits here. Well, I took the whole profit because I set the whole position to sell, which is really annoying, because down here would have been a good time to obviously take some more profits as well, because that is the bottom of the initial balance breakout set at the beginning part of the day, which would be really good, really stable, really solid. But of course, after the first 10, 15 minutes, I brought down the stop loss. I made it a break-even trade. So then I'm going into the last hour of the week thinking I'm going to make money in this trade regardless. And that's what it's all about. It's all about getting into the right trades, the right setups, and managing them well as possible as you go through them. Yeah, I think it's been an interesting stream. I started off pretty rough with these 3 minutes of silence because I didn't realize my microphone wasn't working. So that's always fun. But we're getting better slowly with the streaming. I enjoy doing it. I've currently just got a light sitting here and a monitor giving me the light. Do you feel like, does it work? Does this lighting work? Yeah, yeah, not bad. Not too sure about my background yet, so I might have to try and switch that up a little bit. But we'll go back to the charts here. We'll see what's going into the day. Obviously, tomorrow we've got FOMC, big day in the markets. Well, not huge, but big enough for people to get excited about. 96% likely that we're going to get a 25% rate cut. Obviously, it's definitely definitely priced in already. 100%, surely. Look at the market, just where it is. I mean, this is the futures market for the SPY, and this obviously has a lot of extra hours trading. Oh, I need to put on a different one. So, right, daily chart. This is the futures market, as I was mentioning, and our RSI is up at 69, which is just crazy. It's just basically just gone straight up. So we go to the SPY. RSI is at 70, so similar sort of place actually. I thought that'd be slightly different, but maybe not. I guess the price action doesn't really change too much overnight, so that makes sense. But either way, yes, we're flying up at the moment, and it won't last forever. And I'm basically looking for a fall after tomorrow's report, because so this is the 4-hour chart, just very basic technical analysis. We draw a line from the most recent low, or the most harsh recent low, draw a line there. We are on the edge of just breaking down. It sounds more dramatic. We would probably break down to here somewhere, 644, which is where we were only a couple of weeks ago. But that's something I'm looking for, because when the market drops like that, you want to be on the sales side because that's where you make the most money, and I'll be here for that. Not necessarily related to Edgeval, although I'm sure you could probably use the intraday levels we spoke about, the initial balance breakout levels. That would be really handy in that sort of situation. Because I'll go back to that. Why not? Because if you have these levels and it's dropping and dropping and dropping, and you're coming towards the end of the day, you'll think, oh, actually, I don't want to take this overnight, but I do want to kind of make the most of it. You can start taking at these levels if it's really kind of harshly dropping. So that's another kind of thing to look out for. But I think that's it. I think we've covered a lot of things tonight. We spoke about a lot of indicators on TradingView, which is up there for some reason. Spoke about a few reports. Obviously went through my kind of strategy. Maybe next time we can talk a little bit more about power hour continuation. I'll be on next Thursday here on X, and of course YouTube as well if that's where you're watching me. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Good luck tomorrow. It's going to be a very eventful day. Maybe sometimes just sit it out. Luckily, I'm traveling most of the day, so it's okay. I don't have to trade or anything like that. But yeah, no, take care, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.